all Canadian families, we are on the Titanic. The iceberg hasn't hit yet, so we're not sinking. If we don't shift course, that iceberg is coming for us.
I'm not planning on leaving. I'm fighting. We want to make this country incredibly great.
We begin to see that it really isn't about diversity. It is about punishing the people who perform beyond the mean.
For people who don't care, where do you see Canada going?
Oh, it's catastrophic. It is that bad.
What is the carbon tax doing to lower carbon emissions?
Exactly.
I love this country. I was born in this country. I believe in what this country stands for. I believe in its people. I believe as a place opportunity for all to come and live, but the path that we're on is not working. And we are not going to be what we're supposed to be if we continue along this path.
Yeah.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Citizen Podcast. Jeremy, what's going on?
Hello, welcome everyone. I hope you all saw last night's episode or yesterday's episode. It was pretty punchy. You need to see it.
Might have been our best one yet, but we say that about every episode because we feel we just got to get a little bit better each time.
I don't know if you noticed from yesterday's episode, the Titanic is on its side. It has officially crashed.
Should we put it back up?
I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll see.
It's officially.
We'll see what our guest has to say.
Yeah, we'll see what our guest has to say about that. We'll explain you the Titanic. But we've got a friend of the show that's joining us today, Jasmin Laine. She is an award-winning broadcaster. Yeah. She is turned YouTuber extraordinaire, and she's got a lot of great clips going across social media, but a lot of great thoughts. And I want to urge you to check out her channel on YouTube. Jasmine.
I back that. Before you fully welcome, okay. I fully back that. Check out her channel. Punchy, to the point, excellent coverage.
Jeremy steals her stuff all the time and uses it on our show, just so you know. Jasmine, how are you? Welcome to the Citizen Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and nice to know that I have a little thief that I'm talking to now.
You got to prove it. Always. You got to prove it.
No, thank you. That's very, very kind. I'm just, an average gal talking about stuff. So it's been pretty beautiful to see how much that's resonated with a lot of people. It's like been the greatest adventure of my life in many ways.
Totally.
So because you were in radio and now you are focusing heavily on digital media, specifically your YouTube channels and obviously through your socials and all that. What has the response been? What is like one of the most positive things that you've seen in that transition for you?
You know, I want to first start off by saying when I started this endeavor, I was so scared to the point where I avoided doing it for so long because I just didn't. I just, you hear all the crazy things about people getting canceled and whatnot. And I was really, really worried that was going to be the end result for me. And I very quickly realized that, you're not some radical extremist for thinking normally about things. And the response overall has been really incredible. I'd say the most positive things really have been people who share their stories with me. Like I have so many people who will email me or send a direct message just saying like, hey, I'm 68 years old and I'm so happy to know that there's young people that are speaking up against some of these things. I've had a lot of people people who have been ostracized from their own families or university students who don't really have a clique anymore because of their political views, which is crazy to me, who have come out and said like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, because everybody was telling me I was so crazy for thinking like this and that I was wrong. And, to hear you say what you do and then to show certain statistics and to go more in depth in certain bills, like that part alone, I think the community aspect of it and to an extent, I suppose, giving a voice to people who otherwise either, don't know how to use it on a public platform in the same way that I do, or don't want to do that either. That part has just been like overwhelmingly positive. And I feel so silly for being so afraid of potential backlash and fallout in the early stages of it.
Jasmine, what was the catalyst to getting you into the YouTube world?
Well, it's a little bit of a sad story, but my partner of 10 years, he took his life about a little over a year and a half ago now. And he was the one who very, very much introduced me into the world of politics. We would debate things all the time. And at the time, I was a lot more center than I currently am.
Yeah.
And we used to get in like fights about some of these things too, because I'm like, just stop it. It's so negative and that's so scary. I don't like to think about it. But he was the one who really, really opened me up. And then it wasn't until after he passed away that, because he had always told me I should do something like this. And I had always wanted to, but like didn't quite have the strength, wasn't sure if the reward outweighed the risks.
Yeah.
And then after he passed away, the main thing that happened, I would say, is, I've said this in the past as well, but my therapist at the time, she said, grief is so interesting in how it changes absolutely everything about you. And the things that once meant everything suddenly mean nothing. And the things that meant nothing now mean everything. And I think that it was really through that journey that I just kind of decided, like, I actually don't care anymore. This life is so short.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of research and I feel like I'm decently well-spoken. And so that was really, really the breaking point where just in my grief, I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being told to shut up about some of this stuff. I remember even as well with him, the amount of times that, he would always be spoken down to, like, oh, well, you're just a white cis male. And, you do these things that just dehumanize people. And I could see all of these attacks happening from, the radical lefties, and just how big of an effect that really had on young men in particular. It's something a lot of people don't talk about enough, but there's been recent reports that men under 30 taking their lives, the numbers of that has increased. And it's officially over the amount of women who pass away from breast cancer. And that was a really, really big one for just the mental health aspect, truly. Yeah. I know that almost sounds kind of silly, but when you think about politics and the way that it shapes our entire space of living, it shapes the relationships you have, what you're happy about, what you're mad about, in some way, shape, or form. It shapes everything. And I really started to see, while he was still with us, this really vitriolic attack at men in particular. And I saw the repercussions of that. And I saw the repercussions of people who feel like they don't matter, who are told their opinion isn't valid or doesn't hold any weight because of the color of their skin or their gender. And that really was it was so incredibly eye-opening. And I just didn't care anymore. And I had to just say something about it because, at the time, and still, I'm still suffering from that loss and all of the what ifs. And I can think about, like, well, how do we treat each other? And why do we treat each other this way? And why is one thing misinformation, but the other's not, even though that other thing is totally nuts?
Yeah.
And it just really made me not want to shut up anymore. I got so tired of it. And I really, more than anything, I just stopped caring about what people thought. And I'm like, this is what I feel is right. This is where my heart is telling me to go. My brain's telling me no, but I'm following my heart on this one because this is stuff I'm really passionate about. It's stuff that really, really matters, especially to young people. And there's not enough young people talking about it in Canada as well. There's very few women that are talking about it, none that are around my age, at least. So that was also a big thing. I'm like, obviously there's a space here where people I assume are afraid to or are totally on the opposite side. And if I'm feeling the way that I am, there's no way that I'm the only person on the world who's feeling the way that I am. And so that really just, I'd say like grief more than anything. Like it just opened me up and made me stop caring. And wow, what a journey that has been since I made that decision.
Yeah, no doubt. I wanted to ask you, and you don't have to answer this. Did you feel you had to leave, because you were in the radio industry before this, did you feel like you had to leave the radio industry to truly go down this road?
Yes and no. I would say overall no, because I was already doing this stuff for a few months prior to leaving the industry. Yeah. And I was seeing really good responses and success from it. Yeah. I do think that there were a lot of topics in particular, or some of my opinions, that while I deem them to be quite normal and rational, other people may not. There's certainly the fear of a listener, getting wind of something that you're saying and making a complaint about you. So that was always on my brain. So it made me self-censor a lot more.
Yeah.
And then since leaving the industry, now I'm just like, okay, let's go. Jesus, take the wheel. Carrie Underwood, let's do this. And I'm just ready to kind of go full tilt. And I feel like there's not really anything holding me back now. Whereas before, I think there definitely was, out of respect for my company and my co-hosts and all of that too. I don't want to do anything that puts them them in a disparaging place. So
of course.
Well, it's I just want to say we're very sorry about your loss and what you're going through, and our prayers are definitely with you as you journey through that. And we know a little bit about grief as well, and it's a crazy journey. I'm sure everyone will experience grief through their life at some point, and heavy grief, and it definitely throws you for a loop, and that's an understatement. So just wanted to let you know our thoughts and prayers are with you on that as you go through. And then I think it's awesome hearing that you are taking the step out of not just letting your voice be heard, but you mentioned doing the research, understanding ideas, even you mentioning about the attack on men and young men. I wanted to touch on that for a second because Jerry and I, we've talked about this a little bit. And part of the reason why we started, and for people who've been watching our show, they know why we started this. We basically got thrown into it during the convoy from our father-in-law who used to run all this, told us to go to Ottawa and just... We're not journalists. We are not journalists. We're not reporters.
Go and report back.
We're the opposite of those guys. But just go there and tell us what you see. And it kind of blew up a bit, and that kind of got us on this journey. But one thing we noticed, and you alluded to this, you talk about how politics shapes our life. Everything is political, whether we like it or not. Politics is essentially the rules and of how we live together as people.
Yeah.
How we come together. And at the basis of politics, you have ideas. You have good ideas and you have bad ideas. And there's a lot of bad ideas that have been permeating. And a lot of young men have been subject to this, of being told that they're nothing, or they're idiots, or that you're the problem just for being who you naturally are. And I've noticed, here's a cool story. I've noticed in Calgary over the last probably 4 months, I've had now 4 occasions. One was at a coffee shop, like a cool, good coffee shop in Calgary, and another spot. These guys are 21, 22, and they're like, "Hey, are you David from CTZN?" They're like, "We watch your show all the time. Like, I love your show." And my one of my nephews, he's 19 years old and just went to California to play hockey. His buddy literally, I guess he gave my number to his buddy. He texted me, "I want to be a part of what you guys are doing. I'll work for you for free. I'll help for, like, can I just be a part of what?" Because it's like the pendulum always swings. Just let's say you're saying, Jasmine, and as it's going through, you're seeing now a younger generation of these guys who are just getting out of high school, or maybe in high school, or just entering university, that want nothing to do with these ideas that have been permeating for the last 5, 7, 10 years type of thing. But anyways, awesome hearing you say that, because I think more people need to jump out like that. So I think we got a bit, we're getting to know you. I want to shout out our audience, and Paul will put all the information up on the screen so you can check out your YouTube and all of your stuff to continue supporting you. But Jasmine, what is your take on this week? We are in a historic political climate. There's been a big announcement yesterday with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He's not quite former Prime Minister yet, but but to come, I guess. What's your thoughts? First take.
I need some coffee.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me take a sip first.
Me too.
Take a break. I need a coffee too. I got cold coffee in my cup.
This is my second coffee.
Number 2?
I will be totally frank. I am shocked by the announcement that was made yesterday. Absolutely shocked. However, there's been a few things now that I've had some time to let it rest that I'm thinking about a little bit more. One of my primary reasons for thinking that Trudeau was not going to step down is because of the Kananaskis G7 summit, which is taking place, I think it's June 15th to 17th, if I'm not mistaken. And there's no way to me, Justin Trudeau, this man who, I love the climate, there's no way that he was going to pass up the opportunity to host that in Canada. Like, no way to me. And so when I initially heard his resignation, I was like, no, there is no way. And then you start to kind of get into the details of it. And I mean, he announced he intends to resign. He didn't formally resign. Yeah. Which is some wording to pay attention to.
Wordplay.
And that in that he will only resign after a new leader is chosen, and he prorogued Parliament until March 24th. But a new leader, it would be stupid for them not to, but a new leader in theory doesn't actually have to be chosen by that period of time. Like they could have until past June 17th to choose a leader. So I would not be surprised if that ended up being the outcome, because I could see Trudeau in his talks with everybody saying like, this is the thing that I can go out after I'm able to do this, because I think it would just really pain him otherwise. I think the resignation, we'll put that in quotations, is very silly overall. I think it's a huge waste of time. It's really disappointing to me that the Governor General granted that, because it's a waste of money, and it's also just putting taxpayers on the hook for even longer for them to do nothing. You know, Parliament has already been stalled for how many months? And as much as the Liberals like to say, oh, well, it's due to the Conservatives filibustering, and they always spin it like that. Like, no, the facts are, why has Parliament been stalled? It's because you have been accused of misspending to the tune of over $400 million, and you were questioned about it, and you refused to hand over documents. Like literally, if they wanted the filibuster to end, they could just hand the documents over unredacted.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
It's that simple.
Yep.
So the fact that they aren't, and then they're blaming it on the Conservatives, at this point in time, it's like, well, obviously you're hiding something pretty darn major, which, you know, would come as no shock. There have been how many cases of this Liberal government and cabinet ministers and caucus members, who have used taxpayer funds to give to their family, their neighbors, their lawyers. There's been so many cases of that. And so the fact that the Auditor General in that report alone found that it was around 84 or 89? I can't remember. Either way, way too high of a percentage of those funds were misappropriated. That document is going to be very scary. And it's been so bizarre to me the way that they've spun it to get out of that. And so as a taxpayer, it's really disappointing to me that they have allowed that to go on for so long. And then now to hold on to power for just a little bit longer, you're going to just continue not doing anything while we pay for all of your bills. I think that's so inappropriate. I also think that the resignation was the worst thing imaginable for Canada right now. Proroguing Parliament means that there is nothing going on right now. Everything has been ceased, which is good. Bill C-63, we don't have to worry about now, among a lot of others. So all of their past bills are officially, there's an end to all of them, and they're restarting fresh on the 24th of March. But we have Donald Trump coming in. He's being inaugurated on January 20th.
Yeah.
Why is this is the worst time in the
worst
world
possible scenario. Yeah.
To prorogue Parliament. And so also with that, like Trudeau and his team could make decisions in terms of negotiating with Trump, but they're executive decisions, which means that due to the prorogue, there's going to be no inter-party discussions about it, no input from anybody else, no collaboration from any other parties.
No opposition.
So that means, so that means that whatever the decision is when it comes to the Trump tariffs, which would be horrendous for us, it's going to be entirely made by Trudeau and his executive team. Yeah. And that sounds not like democracy to me. And that's a pretty darn big issue to impose such a thing on. And the whole thing, I just think it was really poor timing. It sets up his successor also for complete failure, because he's giving somebody a maximum of potentially 4 months to become leader and try to sway the public. So to me, it's like he betrayed his country in that decision, given the time frame of it. And then he also betrayed his party, because he's not setting them up for success, especially when this is something he could have done months ago or years ago. I was watching a CTV News clip this morning. Mark Miller said that apparently Trudeau was considering stepping down during the convoy era. And that was a time frame where you saw his popularity significantly decrease. Yeah. So it's been going down and down and down for, 3 years now? What do you just the writing's on the walls? You should have made this decision sooner, certainly. And to even make it at all at this point, I just feel is a waste of time. I really do. The Liberal Party, we're probably going to see some bumps, but Of course you will, especially if they have a woman in there, perhaps Chrystia Freeland. I think she is likely the most probable candidate. She's very much loved among the party. I don't know how, but I think she could be likely. And you will see like their polling numbers right now. You're going to see an increase for them for sure. But the whole thing, it just seems silly. There's not enough time. You may as well have just stayed on and maybe lost official party status, maybe not, who knows. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my very long answer take on it, because there's a lot to unpack.
Well said. Hit a lot of very big important points and questions that still have to be answered. I would sum up what you said, because Jared and I were talking about this yesterday on our show too, that essentially what Justin Trudeau did, and it's not the first time he's done it, is he's putting himself before Canadians, putting the Liberal Party before Canadians. Like the responsible thing, if according to his resignation speech and how much he cares for Canada and cares and all that word stuff that comes out, if he really meant what he said, the responsible thing would be to do is to allow Canadians to choose who is going to lead and negotiate over this next 3 months when we have economical warfare on our front step. That's what Donald Trump is waging with these threats and this play back and forth. And it's not play, it's the wrong word, but that's what he's doing. But no, that's not what we're doing. We're stalling. And it really is a grab and a hold on to power longer. And I made a prediction, and you kind of supported it. And you haven't heard my prediction, but I made a prediction yesterday as we're talking through, saying, just like kind of on the moment, but yes, Justin Trudeau said he's resigning, but this is just buying time to actually continue on in a way. Do you see those balloons come on the screen? Paul, can you edit out those balloons? It won't be in the actual show.
Did you see that, Jasmine?
It's pro presenter. I did some action and balloons came up all across the screen.
I like it. I think we keep it.
It's like if I do a thumbs up,
Keep the balloons.
You'll give me a thumbs up or something. Anyways, I just predicted that it's a stall to regain some sort of semblance of power and support within the party, that whether he continues on, whether it's for, you brought up something interesting I didn't think of.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Of the G7 coming up in June, which is interesting. I'll tell you after, but I digress. Go ahead.
One of my thoughts too is, and you've also alluded to it as well, we've been kind of exploring this as well, is the economic fallout that we will see. We will see it. We have no solution to it at this point. And we're going to see it, and it could get very drastic, very bad. I was saying to you in between, we were shooting some stuff before this. I told him, I said, should I pull out my investments, any investments, Canadian investments we have leading up to January 20th? Because we're going to see a hit like we've never seen before if 25% tariffs come on this country, and if they do, then it's going to be across the board. So who knows, maybe he's expecting us to, maybe this is a stretch, I feel like, but maybe we'll be in such pain that we won't have time for an election. We're going to be hurting so bad we won't be able to pull off an election because we're going to be in such an economic fallout. I don't know.
Question
that's
for
a stretch too,
Jasmine. Maybe you know this answer. I actually realized I don't know this answer. As he announced that he is stepping down as leader of the Liberal Party, so he hasn't quite stepped down yet. He is still the leader until a new one is chosen. Is that correct, or is there a power vacuum right now?
No, he still
No,
is.
that is completely correct. He is still prime minister. I think to me, it's like that just also really, it just really signals something that I think is a lot more nefarious, where I feel like this decision came as a last ditch, because that's the thing. It's not like he said, hey, I'm resigning today, we're calling an election, or we have a new leader that we're putting in already because we've been working this through. Yeah. It's not like he did any of those things. The fact that he said, I'm announcing my intention to resign once we get a new leader, I think that very likely could have been an attempt to ease some of the tensions that have been growing within his own caucus.
Let some air
with
out
them
of the
saying,
balloon.
okay, great, you're giving us what we want then. Phew. While also not giving them what they want.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe he's hoping that this announcement will help the Liberal Party go up in the polling numbers, because now people think that there's going to be a new leader. And there's a lot of people, think about all of the F Trudeau flags and stickers. They say Trudeau, not Liberals.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that, and I agree as well, the Liberal Party as a whole it's gotten a little off the rails here in terms of wokeism, but But the party as a whole is very much needed. That's something I really appreciate about our parliamentary system, is the fact that you have NDPs, Liberals, Conservatives, Greens, the Bloc. The Bloc shouldn't be a party, though. That's weird. But like the fact that you have all of those things, and then ideally in the House, you're able to use all of those opinions that do represent Canadians and come to the best possible conclusion that will benefit the most amount of Canadians. So I'm not an anti-Liberal Party person by any means. I think the party, by definition, they're no longer that. But by definition, if they got back to that, which I have heard some Liberal insiders saying as well over the last 24 hours, that the party needs to get back to a more center approach versus being so far on the left. But to me, I really think that I just feel like this was all a really big trick. And then, of course, he prorogues Parliament. Well, now the Green Slush Fund thing is also kind of in the water. They will have an opportunity to bring that up, but will they? Probably not, because it's clear that the Liberals do not want to produce those documents. And then again, I think it's, I was listening to Jordan Peterson when he was talking with Selena, who was his former press secretary. I actually have been talking to her as well. Stay tuned for that, because she may or may not be on Over Opinionated soon. But when Jordan Peterson was talking with her, he had described how Justin Trudeau is, by his accounts, a malignant narcissist, which is essentially somebody where they're at such a high rate of narcissism, and once their mask starts to fall, they will go out in like a flaming carriage, you know? And I do feel like this is Trudeau's attempt to do just that. Is he has completely severed any chance at all of potentially swaying Trump. I don't know if there was a big chance to begin with, but he's completely severed any of those conversations now with anybody other than his executive team, which is gross. And then on top of that, as I had said earlier, he also set his party up for failure. And he's doing this thing as this, it looks good on the surface. Like I said, oh, great, we get what we want. But when you actually peel back the layers of it and you're like, actually, you said something, but we actually aren't getting what we want. And we're arguably in a worse state now. And whoever the future leader of the Liberal Party is in a worse state now because of you. Like, you literally set them up for absolute failure, just as somebody that is a malignant narcissist would do.
Yeah, and you alluded to that in our show yesterday, where David pointed out that he kind of tied Chrystia to him. If she's going to make a run for leadership, he kind of said it in his statement, Christia's been beside me for the last 10 years.
By my side for 10 years.
For 10 years, she's and so he's kind of almost saying, if you hate me, then you better hate her too, and kind of hurting her shot at leadership, possibly. Who knows?
It is.
Well, I had heard. Sorry,
go ahead.
I had heard something on a video that I was watching that really opened up my brain, because it wasn't a perspective I had thought. But yeah, if Chrystia Freeland were to run, and I do think, because she is very much liked in the Liberal Party, for the insiders and the people voting on who the leader would be, at least, if she were to run, yes, sure, she could become the leader under them. But in order to gain any traction at all with Canadians, she would have to completely throw him under the bus.
And her own actions for the last while, too.
Well, yeah. And I don't know that she would actually be willing to do that, because, for her, what is her future outside of this? Maybe she goes back to journalism. I don't know. But what's next? And then you'll forever be known as the woman who played a very active role in all of the destruction and sadness and corruption that we're seeing today. You defended all of that stuff as well. And then to top it off, you completely backstabbed the man that you've spent a decade defending and arguing on behalf of, as though he was doing great things, when, the lie detector test determined that was a lie. So I really don't think that any move that she could make is a good move per se, at least not for the Canadian public. The whole thing is so messy. And then you also have Mark Carney potentially in there, Mark Carney is running. He has announced that. And it's hilarious, because his website, it's Carney for Canada. And if you click into the About section, it literally takes you to a link to the WEF, their mission statement. It's not even a Mark Carney
page. Does it actually?
Oh, yes.
Geez.
So
It's
what are we
insane.
doing?
the interesting thing, Jasmine, about
gotta look this up right
yeah,
now.
look it up about Mark Carney though, because I was reading a bit in the Liberal Constitution, just saying like what are their rules that they have established for this type of scenario, and I think they're going to have to make some constitutional changes for the Liberal Party to allow someone like Mark Carney, or he's already must have. I don't know if he's already been able to do a lot of the groundwork, because there's a certain amount of signatures you have to have within the party by a certain amount of days, like 90 days before. You have to make your intentions known officially, not the way that he did it, because he's done on some interviews by saying, I intend to run and all that kind of jazz. But it's going to be, I'm just really interested to see the names that are going to be put forward, because obviously, Carney's there, Chrystia Freeland's there, maybe Dominic LeBlanc and the other guy, the Champagne guy, forget his name, but except for Champagne. And there's a couple others that might be around.
Philip, what's his name? Crap, now that's on my head. Something Philip Champagne.
There's two last names there. We got 50%. That's passing grade, so we're good still. But it's going to be very interesting. It's not a fun situation. The thing that really pissed me off though about it is just the selfishness. Like I know, and I've seen selfishness for so long. I don't think they're worthy of the title of, first off, being a leader in Canada, and also of the idea of being a public servant. Like that title is completely lost on this. But the fact that the selfishness is there, that we are in this is a dire situation. People, unfortunately, if we have our head in the sand, we don't realize how important this is, but we've already dug ourselves into a hole for a while. We have a lot of work to do. I hope that it looks likely that the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre leading the Conservatives will most likely be the next Prime Minister. They have a lot of work to do to get us back on the right trajectory. But these next 3 months could dig that hole 3x deeper than what it is, depending on how relations go. So it's just,
if I can be honest, I'm scared. Genuinely, I'm scared. I'm scared for our economy and everything. It's very bleak right now. And I think that also, really the selfishness, absolutely, but it signals as well to the state of total economic collapse. And the Liberals will sit there and say, oh, well, we're the highest GDP to per capita in the G7. Yeah, because you use numbers that you shouldn't have, and because you increased our population to create temporary spikes.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody could tell you that. But, it's Canadians for so long have been told that, oh, wait, you mean you don't make enough to survive anymore? Well, that's not true, because you should be. Everybody just keeps being told to shut up. And meanwhile, it's the situation as a whole has been so hopeless for so many years under this government, and it just gets worse year after year after year. And so to me, the next 3 months, I'm it's still very hopeless. And then on top of that, we have a very unpleasant situation coming up with the Trump tariffs, which by all accounts are absolutely going to be coming. Good luck to everybody. That is going to be really, really challenging. Yeah. And I'm very scared for that. I'm scared of the collapse. We already, if we didn't have the mass immigration in the way that we did, which I personally think was 100% to make Trudeau look good on the world stage, because Canada is so kind and welcoming and multicultural. And then I also think that he did it in the way that he did to completely rise up some of those numbers temporarily
100% props
until,
up those
of course,
underlining numbers. You're right.
Yeah. So to me, I'm I think that he did all of that on purpose, and it was not for a positive reason. And I think that if he hadn't done the immigration, Canada, without a doubt, we would be in a recession right now, without a doubt. Yeah. Except for he's just been delaying when we can officially say that, because of these numbers of people that he's brought in. Yeah. And the whole thing is just it's so gross. The people who want to see through it are able to see through it. And it's really disappointing also the amount of Liberal Party loyalists who they will vote for that party no matter what, even though they don't like anything that's going on. That is just their party. And that's really disappointing, because no, we're actually in a really bad state. And I don't think people realize that. Yeah. And people are also selfishly not considering others who make less than they do, or who don't have, the same types of lifestyles that they do. Yeah. I think when you have poverty, and this was actually something hilarious, just so insane, I wanted to bang my head against the wall. Justin Trudeau, in his speech yesterday, he said something to the effect of how they reduced poverty.
No,
Go, this
I
is-
didn't see that.
Your, your reaction was the exact same thought I had watching the speech. I wanted to hit my face into a brick wall over and over again because the irony of the things he said he did for Canada, and he started listing like 3 or 4 things, and it's like, you are saying the exact opposite of what has actually occurred. It's either narcissism, like you said, or complete delusion, or just I don't even know what else to say, because I can show you. We got record numbers of people lining up at food banks in our country, right? We've got,
but he's able to say that because he increased the immigration. So he's able to say that's not true because look at per capita, and it's like, yes, you did that on purpose. Like, and it's so corrupt and gross when you really look into that information.
Well, and just to bring clarity for people who are watching, if you're not catching what Jasmine is saying, is immigration is used traditionally as an economic tool. When it's used, it can be used in a healthy way, in a good way to help, because but it is an economic tool. And that's what she's saying. But this has been used to the extreme to hide the declining underlying numbers that are real factors showing what is happening in our country, and this just masked it
in order to enforce the idea that we're not in a recession because of the numbers that balance that way.
Well, you look at how much money we have printed, so the circulation of money that we have is gone up, I think 45% in the last 3 or 4 years, and our GDP has gone up 4% with immigration. So you have also that, if you know economics, the basics of it, 10 times your money.
I also think I think it's also, I mean, obviously too, you could assume, and this was a thought that I had back in, which election was this? I don't think, this wasn't the snap election, whatever election happened before then. So what year would that have been?
With
2019,
Trudeau, you mean?
I believe?
Yeah.
2021 is when he called the election. What you're referring to?
We had 2015, and then there was another one, and then a snap election.
2019,
right?
and then he called a snap in 2021 when it came to the emergency policies for COVID or whatever. It was 2 years early. That was a snap.
Yeah. So the one in 2019, this was a thought that I had immediately, and I'll dive deeper into this. But when that election was called, that election was coming, but prior to that, we had the Syrian crisis that was happening, and there were dozens, not dozens, like hundreds, thousands of Syrian refugees that were brought into Canada. And they were given, Justin Trudeau did this. I remember watching his speech on this, and I felt so sick to my stomach for a plethora of reasons. But he said, as he was at the airport when he did this announcement, because it was like the first plane of Syrian refugees coming in. And he said that every single one of those people was going to get a permanent citizenship when they got off the plane. And to me, I think, oh, cool, you're buying votes. That's exactly what that is. It was in an election year. Without a doubt, that was the intent. And I felt so sick about that as well, because, you know, we all live here. We all have friends from all over the place. Canada is very, very diverse. And that was something that was super awesome and cool. Like, you could learn so much from the people around you. And that has just been so exploited over time. And it's gotten to the point where it's actually really bad for us now. It's bad for our economy. It's bad for our jobs, for everything. And it's not because the people who are coming in are necessarily bad, though some of them, it turns out, have been. But I thought that was so awful, because at the time I had a friend who was from, I think it wasn't Afghanistan. It was like a bordering town around Afghanistan, whose family had come here, and they had saved up every single penny that they possibly could. It took them years to save up the money to come to Canada, because where they were, it was really bad. It was starting to get overrun with rebel groups, but they could not actually come here through the refugee process because it was really long and they needed to get out of there. And I remember discussing this with her family, where she had said, like, she was so gutted because her family had to pay everything to come here. And then they also had to pay to get their citizenship test. They had to pay to get the photos taken and file the paperwork. They had to pay for all of that. And they gave everything that they once had just to come here and to leave that chaotic situation. And it really opened my eyes to just how cruel of an act that was. Like, yes, it looks really good and nice and compassionate on the surface, but what a slap in the face to all of the other Canadians
who are going through the process,
spent everything coming here And many of them still don't even have their citizenship because they can't afford all the legal documents, or they can't afford like all of the stuff. It's not like it's wildly expensive, but when you come here and you have nothing, that's wildly expensive, right? And so that I just thought was so disappointing. And then to see as well, like how immigration has gone since then, where it's just been these overwhelming numbers into a market that cannot sustain it. It also really breaks my heart for the people coming for the Canadian dream who get here and then realize that I can't find a job, I can't find a house that I can afford to live in. And those people are now using the food banks. I saw this was a few months back, but the Toronto Food Bank had reported like a record high number. It was the majority of people who were using their food bank at that time were actually like new immigrants that had come in.
We have connections to a couple charities that run food banks, and they're at all-time highs for people pulling on them. We have the church we go to has a food bank in Winnipeg, and they're just being drained.
It's the largest food bank in Winnipeg.
Yeah, second largest. Isn't it?
I thought it was largest.
Anyway, either way, first or second,
they're seeing incredible amounts rise. We're seeing it through BC when people are lining up for the free vegetable stands that are being given away, and you have people waiting like 7-8 hours just to be able to get. It is crazy. You guys okay if I change direction quickly just as we start to to close here? There's a video just came up on my Twitter a little bit ago. I want to get back to Donald Trump and the economic force because he's being questioned as we're talking. So this is within the last half an hour or so. And he's saying here, and Jazz, I'm going to cast this, and I think you should be able to see it. So just like wave at me if you don't. But essentially what he is saying here is he plans to use economic force to make Canada the 51st state. So he's getting stronger language.
He's saying it that clearly?
Well, we're about to see, but yeah, that's what's written here. Andrew, am I good to press play and it should be fine?
I can see it.
Can you turn it sideways?
Can you hear the volume? Oh, might be bad. Sorry, guys. Let's redo this.
Mr. President, if we were to work under the assumption that you're serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstances will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it.
So there's the end of it.
Interesting.
Well, as first comment, it's more than an artificial line. There's a border. Let's just get that straight. But,
he means
the thing is that what I'm concerned about is what started out kind of as a joke, which was probably he knows that Trump's not a dumb guy.
Yeah, we can all see through.
He knows that there's issues, and he's a guy that can expand a bit. But he's doubling down on that. And I just want to allude to what we were talking about earlier. This is the importance of what is coming our way. It's a freight train that is coming our way, and we've decided to lower all defenses and just say, we'll pay attention to that later.
Yeah.
And you know what I think is so fascinating too is just Trump's response after meeting other people. Like there's been other world leaders and whatnot that have come to meet him, and he'll post about it afterwards saying like, oh, what a wonderful woman. This is great. Love our relationship. No. But with Trudeau, and there's been many things that Trudeau did in the past that Trump really didn't like. And Trump also has been quite vocal about not liking what Trudeau has done to Canadian citizens. Mm-hmm. He was very vocal during the trucker convoy.
That's right.
And so to me, I think that the fact that Justin Trudeau goes to meet with Trump, and I'm sure it was a fine meeting, but then Trump says something like that, and Justin Trudeau, to me, it's like initially he probably just kind of laughed it off. And then Trump was like, because they don't like each other. Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, also, like Danielle Smith is going to Trump's inauguration.
Yeah, she is.
Justin Trudeau hasn't got a ticket yet, as far as all sources can confirm. Like they are not friends. They do not support each other. And Trudeau has done a lot of things where he has like been really friendly with Trump and then talked crap about him. He also, the last year, has just been talking crap about Trump too. So was everybody in his party. Like, they all thought it was funny to make fun of Trump and the mega conservatives, the maple syrup megas. But then Trump actually gets elected and they're like, oh crap, I guess we probably should have remembered what we were taught in grade school, which is that bullying is mean and, you shouldn't pick on people and you shouldn't name call and whatever. I think everybody can take a lesson there. But it's just really interesting to see how they meet. And then Donald Trump's response is that. Mm-hmm. And then he met as well with LeBlanc and Jolie, just, what was it, maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago or something. And he didn't say anything about their meeting at all. And then reports showed that the meeting left a lot of uncertainty with Canadian officials who were present at the time. So, just to see that comparison of how hard he's going at Canada is really interesting. And I don't know, I'm curious what you guys think about this as well, because I'm not sure how much I believe Donald Trump saying this. He knows Trudeau resigned. He posted about it yesterday after it happened, or announced his plan to resign. And then, he goes out and says this was today, you said?
An hour ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he goes out and posts and says this today. I'm like, I don't know if he's actually just trying to put even more pressure on them because he knows what proroguing Parliament is going to do, and that's going to essentially cease all discussions and communications about it in a collaborative way, at least. Or I don't know if he's actually really serious about that. Kevin O'Leary, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was talking about this. And one of the things that he said was that, obviously Canada is its own sovereign nation. We're under the Queen or King now, sorry. But also it would make a lot of sense for not necessarily for the US to acquire Canada, but perhaps to have some better partnerships and relations in regard to trade and industry expansion and whatnot. Like, if we could have maybe some better relationships in that regard, instead of being such a hard line in the sand about some things. I don't actually think that would be a terrible idea. They've done that in many neighboring countries in Europe. So, I don't think that that's a bad idea. And that could also be very economically viable for Canada as well. So I don't know if his plan is that because he wants our oil and he wants all of our minerals, no duh. Or if it's actually just that he hates Justin Trudeau and wants him gone and wants to keep putting that pressure on.
Well, I think he's clearly a businessman. He obviously prides himself on the deal. He always has. And then the other thing I think that we have to keep in mind is he's thinking legacy. He's also thinking how his name will be remembered.
He doesn't have to worry about a second term.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about re-election at all. Okay. So, because this is, I don't know if you guys saw what he posted on Truth Social minutes after Trudeau's speech. He said this: many people in Canada love the idea of being a 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the US, there would be no tariffs. Taxes would go way down. This is like Trumpified language. Taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. Like, crystal clear.
Well, you asked, Jasmine, the question you asked definitely requires some thought, because it's like, knowing Donald Trump, I think first take, he's a negotiator. What he will come over the top to try to get people to the table, just to be able to get some other goal that maybe isn't clear at the beginning. So come up with a heavy-handed approach, make people panic, you want to be in the negotiating seat. You want to be the advantage on your side. So him shaking the other side, it's clearly what he's doing. He is trolling and he is shaking, and he's making politicians fear this type of potential that could happen. Yep. Kevin O'Leary's brought some interesting takes too. I thought, I don't mind in principle some of the things he said. I think there are a lot more ways we can work together. I think there's a lot of flaws, though, within the European Union. And that's why you saw Brexit and you saw certain things that happen. So if we can learn from some of those mistakes, and there is freer trade, and maybe there's ways I can find to benefit both without the problem that's happened under the last 10 years. We've had so much bureaucracy build up in Canada that has just stifled free market. And Donald Trump is like the ultimate free market guy. Yeah. And so is Kevin O'Leary. Like, that's his shtick. So anyways, that's a long way of saying, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because Donald Trump could maybe not care at all about Canada, but maybe, you know what? Okay, maybe he does, because he's talking more about Greenland, talking more about Panama. Maybe he sees U.S. can expand and grow and
what
strengthen.
president ever would have the balls to do something like this?
Yeah,
it's him, if there's any.
But Jasmine, I've said this.
It's crazy though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I know it is.
Okay, what's your thought? If we got to close here, we're way over time for our normal show, but this has been an awesome conversation, so we can get some other pieces out of it. But Jasmine, what if Canada became if you had a vote, would you vote yes or no? Like, I know it's just straight yes or no. Would you vote to be a part of the U.S.?
I would vote no, for sure. I love Canada. I love the differences that we have in America. There's a lot of flaws here that I think can all be very much remedied over time. And I'm willing to stay the long shot. Though, I hate winter. So, you know.
I don't think that would make it go away. I guess you could,
somehow allow me to go to Florida for 5 months of the year that'd be awesome.
Then I might consider. But no, I would definitely vote no. I appreciate, this is crazy, but I appreciate the pressure that these threats and tweets or posts have made. Because we absolutely need to secure our border. We absolutely need to seize all production of government-funded narcotics immediately. We need to invest more in rehabilitation. We need to seize safe injection sites unless they're a part of the rehabilitation process, as there's many things you can be on where quitting cold turkey is a pretty dangerous situation for the human brain and heart to be involved in. So I'm open to that if we had more of a Portugal model of that. But so I agree that those things really needed to have attention to them, and people like us have been signaling this is a really, really big problem, and we've been told to shut up and told that we're ists and phobes. And I do appreciate the heightened awareness of this issue now as a result of what Trump has been doing. But I would far rather see our country get rid of this Trudeau liberal regime. Just please, for the government, just make sure our finances are okay and get out of my life. That's all I want. I'm so sick of the how socially involved the liberal government is, but that's also usually what you get with the liberal government. It's just been taken to the tens with this one. So yeah, my vote is no. It sounds kind of fun. Like it's like a fun little, maybe air travel would be so much more affordable then. But but as a whole, it would still be a no. I like our sovereignty.
Our vote would be no too. Jared and I have discussed this. We're no on that front. We think if Canadians we've actually been pretty strong. If Canadians would want to vote yes, I would question whether you're worthy of the title of Canadian, because there is a lot of beautiful history that we have. And I do believe in being a strong nation. I'm a little more nationalistic. I think the best position the world can be in is when you have strong nations that can keep each other in check. And that doesn't mean you're forcing yourself on others, but you're there to be able to keep the balance proper. So any last words, Jer, or thoughts?
That's all. I think that's all. That's well said. I think, Jasmine, you said it well. Thank you for your time.
Why? Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate. Check out all of Jasmine's stuff. Citizens, you guys can go check out what she's doing. All be on the screen, all the information. Definitely have you back again. Appreciate you hanging with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That's it.
The show goes on.
Until next time, the show goes on.